Welcome to Cult Connections. Let's see what we are taking a sideways look at today. Hi, it's Ian here. Again, I am joined by the Rafa. Hello, Rafa. How are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm very happy to be back again. Back again.
Good, and I'm very happy there to have you back. So, the last time we spoke, we were quite they're serious, weren't we? We sort of
Yeah.
some fairly serious there sort of topics. You will be glad to hear today will be a lot more fun. Because what we have chosen is something that we certainly both they grew up with, watching, something we have fond and perhaps not so fond their memories of. Um, Today we have three slices of what's known as Swords and Sorcery from the 1980s, which is, of course, a great time for films. And I have some fond their sort of memories of watching these films and these type of films in their sort of general, and certainly in their sort of Britain. These kind of films would maybe often pop up on a Sunday, their sort of afternoon, or especially during their sort of Christmas as well. So sort of Christmas time. But for you, Rafa, so tell me about watching these films where you were.
Um, Here in Brazil, we have, well, it's I don't know if we still have because I don't watch open TV for a while now, but we used to have in the 80s, in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s something called afternoon sessions. It was in Rede Globo. It's the biggest uh, TV channel here, and I think everybody from my age who used to watch Sessão da Tarde, how we it was the name,
Mm-hmm.
and they always showed these movies like movies that were very famous on the cinema, and they used to show them on the afternoon. So sometimes after I came from school, I had my lunch and then I sit on the front of TV to watch these movies. And I remember to watch Crow, and I remember that I liked it a lot. And some of them was on, like Crow was very famous, so sometimes on Sunday night, on Sunday afternoon too, you used to watch it. But all of them, all the three movies, were always on Sessão da Tarde in the afternoon here. I think it's a big thing for my generation here to come from school and right after lunch to sit in front of TV and watch a movie.
Very good. Unfortunately, school in their sort of Britain runs a bit longer than that, so you wouldn't have an afternoon actually to watch a film because you were still at school. Um,
Yes.
yeah, but actually that sounds a lot better than what we got, to be fair. But anyway, yep. So like I say, we've got three great examples. We are going to start in 1980 with a lovely little film, I will say, and that is Hawk the Slayer. Um,
Okay.
However, it's not known by that's their title, is it, Rafa? So what is it?
No.
Um,
I it was funny because when you told me about the movies, I of course I remember Crow because it was the name here in Brazil,
mhm.
but we call Crew.
Yeah, okay.
And then you said the name of the other movies, and I was like, wait. I said wait because I needed to look at the internet to remember the name in the title in Portuguese. So
Uh-huh.
Hulk the Slayer was O Falcão Justiceiro. It's kind of the same.
Mhm.
It's because Falcão is Hulk and Justiceiro is it's not slayer, but it's someone that pursued some kind of justice and revenge. So it's kind of the same.
Yeah. So actually, that probably sums it up quite well. I think that's quite a good,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
yeah, sort of version of it, isn't it? Yeah, excellent. So yeah, so Hawk the Slayer, which is the British film. They came out in the 1980. They're directed by the Terry Marcel, who did a few similar films. They're written by him as well, and Harry Robertson, and it stars Jack Palance and Nigel. They're sort of Terry. They are the two main, their leads. And I don't want to go over the plot sort of too much, because if you haven't seen the film, I don't really want to spoil it for you.
But yes, because I think you need to watch to understand. It's a whole experience to watch this movie.
It
There's
certainly
so
is.
many things going on this movie, and for me, well, I guess now because I rewatch now, but now I a lot of things didn't make sense to me, but at the same time I had so much fun and I laughed a lot.
Okay, good. I'm not really sure if you're supposed to laugh too much at the film,
Yes,
but
I
fair enough. Uh, but but basically, it concerns with the aid of his companions, a man seeks to defeat his evil brother, who has taken a nun hostage. Um, so it's very much so. So Hawk is the hero of the film. He has a magic sword. His brother is an evil, they're sort of tyrant, who goes around the land, um, sort of killing sort of people, not being very nice, and like I say,
yes,
this nun hostage because he wants to ransom her off, as it were. Um, and this film, it's very much it's in a sort of medieval setting, so like
yes,
the Middle Ages, and it's quite sort of grim, in many ways.
yes,
Not somewhere you
yes,
want there to live, is it?
yes, but I think it's funny because these three movies I found very violent for now, like
Mhm.
we grew up watching this and we never thought, oh, this is violent, and now we watch it and we're kind, oh, how many deaths, and it's very violent, and
Yeah.
but at the same time I think it's a little bit childish, I don't know if you understand,
Hmm.
because of the dialogues and the solution for the things that happen. They have very fast, and sometimes I know that's not supposed to be funny, but some solutions are a little bit funny, but I understand that was another time and they are trying to understand how to work with special effects and this kind of thing. But I but at the same time it's very violent, but you don't see blood.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's violent, because all the language, all the way they fight each other, the things that they talk to each other, and it's like you said. So yes, I think from the three movies, I think this is one is the most dramatic. I think I
Hmm.
don't know how to explain,
Yeah, no, I
because
think
there
that's
is
right.
all this
I think,
Syrian thing happening, like brother against brother, and the father and the
mhm.
sword. It's a little bit interesting.
I think you definitely get a sense that this isn't somewhere you would want there to live. That life in the Hawk, universe isn't a particularly sort of pleasant one. Um,
Yes,
yeah, it's quite sort of grim in its way, but you're absolutely
yes, yes,
right. It is their fun as well. Um,
Yeah. Well, I enjoy it because I have a lot of fun watching, because the solutions that they get, it's funny because they have all these problems to resolve, and in the end, like, okay, but let's do this very quickly, and then somebody die, or the baddie die, and they can carry on with the quest. So it's a little bit funny, that part,
yeah.
you know.
Mhm. It's very much a case of there if they have a problem that they have to solve, they sort of quickly. There is their sorceress, their sort of character who they just sort of draft in, and she does a bit of magic, and then they're fine again. So
And it's, oh my god, it's one of my favorite parts. It's when the sorcerer come to help them. It's, and she's like a ex machina, you know, like when they have something happening that there is nothing that can help them or then can help themselves, so she appears and suddenly everything, it's because she's very powerful. So in the end, it's very funny, you know, how they use her, like, to show that she's very powerful, you know.
uh-huh.
But it's uh, it's interesting.
It's and I mean, plot wise, the plot's fairly
Yes,
straightforward. It's fairly standard. It's um
but
so Hawk and his brother there, they are they're sort of enemies because Hawk is this, magic sword, and his their sort of brother feels, and this is his older brother, and he very much feels that the sword should be his. So he hates Hawk, and there's things that happened in the past, and Hawk needs to revenge him, and so on. But I mean, the plot itself it's fairly straightforward. It's a kidnap and sort of rescue sort of plot, really, isn't it? And it's
but
not.
uh but so many things happen, you know. You have the plot is very simple, you know, like the father died because the evil brother killed him, the evil son killed him, but then came the good son, and the father likes him, and the father wants him to be the heir of the land and the crown and everything else. But at the same time, when they have this quest to find the evil brother, a lot of things happen. And I remember that I was in the middle of the movie and I was like, why these men are together? What is their quest again? Because I forgot, you know. So many things happen, and suddenly new characters came. Like, there is the son of Volton, and you are like, wait, he has a son. What's going on? You know. and and there is the sorceress, and then she says to him, you need um some warriors, and suddenly he is after these warriors to fight with him, and you are like, what the hell is going on? You know.
It's not
Why Hulk is doing
yeah
that again, you know,
not
like it's a little bit confusing, but at the same time it's very funny, you know.
uh, it's it's not really explained too well, because it seems to be that
No.
Hawk knows the other, sort of warriors, as it were, but that's never really spelled out as to how he knows them. So yeah.
But yes, and it's funny because he just appeared and say, "Come to me, and come with me," and people go with
Yeah.
and you are like, "Wait, who is this?" You know.
Yeah.
And there is this abbey with the abbess and all the nuns. You are like, "Wait." what time is this? When that happened? Why there is this nuns? It's very funny. But the thing that I noticed that besides the movie, it's a little bit confusing, and the movie it's has these problems. It's a great story that they want to tell you, and they don't do like this kind of movies anymore with so much, so rich with so many things happening and with a story that you want to understand what will happen
Mhm.
and that you want to know how it will end.
You do. It does. It does rattle along, as it were, and you do want to find out what actually happens. It does. It
Yes.
does. It does sort of capture you like that, certainly. Um, One thing that doesn't really work so well is that. So to play Voltan, they got Jack their Palance, um, who's
Yes.
well into his 60s by the time that he made this film. Their Nigel, their sort of Terry, who plays his their brother Hawk. He must be at least 35 years younger than him. Uh, that
Yes.
doesn't really work out.
I was like, how he is the brother? He's the same age of the father, but that's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, yeah.
And you know what I really liked about these movies from the 80s? Like everybody that's dying, they have this whole speech to make, and they like the father, when in the beginning of the movie that the father is dying and he's dying
Yeah.
and he stopped to make this huge speech for the new for the son to the youngest son, and
Uh-huh.
then he could send to him that special, that magical stone to put on the sword, and you were like, oh my god, you were dying. you know
You
and
did.
it's very funny, but that happened in the three movies. All the
Mhm.
movies has this happening, someone giving this big speech for the hero to get his revenge and
Mhm.
carry on. This is
Yeah.
a little bit funny. They don't do that anymore. I miss that on movies.
It certainly, yes, it certainly tells things in a more old sort of fashioned way. You did pick up on there is a Monty their sort of Python-esque sort of feel to
Yes.
their sort of to it. So certainly if you've watched the Holy Grail or their sort of
Yeah.
Jabberwocky, that's another film. Um, it definitely has that sort of feel about it. Um,
Yes.
I did wonder when they turned up at the nunnery. I did get some castle their sort of anthrax vibes to it, but thankfully the nuns are a bit more they're sort of chic, as it were, so you don't get any of that going on. Um,
Yes.
One thing I did get
But
just with the setting and the grimness about it, and I think because it is they're sort of Britain, and obviously it's out in their sort of countryside and things like that. I did get a little bit of Game of Thrones about it as well. Um,
yes,
yeah, so there's
especially the part of the nuns,
mhm,
especially the part with the nuns. And I think when they always pass through that forest, and there is that group of slayers, and that's very Game of Thrones, I
mhm.
think.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
that.
definitely, yeah. Um, There for me as well, there was a scene where the dwarf sort of character, so the little chap, uh, and when Hawk goes to sort of team up with him, he's actually tied to a their raft, and there are these
Mhm.
these they're sort of priests, and they're shooting, flaming
Yes,
arrows at him. That
that
felt
part
very
is a
sort of
little
Game
bit
of Thrones
funny.
as well. Um, and and like you say, there's a sense that it's quite sort of spread out, even though Hawk can move really quickly and be in, sort of three places at once. Um,
Yes, but it is with the help with of the sorcerer, so
yeah, uh-huh,
it
yeah,
can give
uh,
him that's why he can
uh-huh,
be in a lot of places at the same time, because of her magical powers.
yeah. Um,
But yes,
there is a
it's a little
there
bit.
is a bit there is
But I like that the movie used these things and things happen because if you pay attention, a lot happen in this movie, and they have only 1 hour and a half to tell you the story.
Mhm.
So things happen and they don't explain, and you have to accept and go on with the movie. And I think this is fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't have to think sort of too much about it, and it does not outstay their welcome either. So, um, one thing I wanted there to touch on was the music that is used. So the music was composed by a chap called Harry. The Yeah, as actually, I have written down Harry Robertson, and I'm hoping that's the correct fella. Um, and I'm gonna check just now because I'm actually doubting myself now. Um,
Okay. I can't let me see.
no, we're fine, Rafa. We will just
Okay.
uh, we'll just go with it because yeah. So the music was written by the same chap who actually co-wrote the script. So Harry Robertson. Um,
Okay.
So now, when we were chatting actually there yesterday, Rafa, and I asked you if you were familiar with an album called Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. Um,
Yes.
and you weren't familiar with it, but you did. I hope that you.
No.
I hope that you played
No.
it.
I know. Yes. I know the War of the Worlds, but I didn't know about the musical, and
Uh-huh.
it's it's great. I listen a little bit because it's big,
Yeah,
but it's great, and the soundtrack is great.
yeah,
But yes, I like it, but I didn't know,
yeah.
and
Well, that's good. I love that. I love that. I've actually, shown you something there new, and
mhm.
I do hope that you play it quite a few times because it's a great album. I do.
Yes, I want to hear
Yeah.
everything.
However, I do know that probably a lot of people they're sort of listening will know this album quite well. It was a
Yes,
it was a big hit, and if you're like me, it's the kind of thing that you like. Um, however, Harry Robertson's score for this film rips it off something rotten. To be honest, the music is amazingly
yes,
similar.
he tried, I think, because I think the music is a little bit the other two movies, the music is more powerful. In this one, sounds like it's the same music all over again.
I think what maybe doesn't work with the music is that there's a lot of there's sort of synthesizers and things like that.
Yes,
That maybe doesn't really fit in actually with the setting of the film.
yes, and I think I don't know because I the music caught my attention because of that. I think the music is not so powerful because in the other two movies the music is very well put in the movie, and this one
Yeah,
it's kind of like it's the same music all over again, and I was
yeah.
like, oh, every time the hero is going to do something, it's the same music. Every time the baddie goes to do something, it's the same music, and I was like, it's just kind of like the same music the whole movie.
Yeah. Um,
But I think it makes I think it's perfect for the everything in the movie. Not like it's because the movie it's like I told you, everything is happening, a lot of it's happening all the time, and then you got this music, so it sends the you got the vibe of the music, you know, it gives you the vibe of the
It does,
movie.
yeah. Uh-huh. It does. It
So
does.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. It does work well. I just wanted to touch on the cast actually. So
Mm.
was there anyone that stood out for you? Was there anyone in there that you liked, or was
I'm I I don't know if I can say that because I'm a film critic, but I'm the worst with names. But like the guy that's in the abyss that helps the nuns, and then he doesn't have a hand.
Mhm.
I forgot his name, but I already knew him.
Yeah, that's William
I
Morgan,
didn't remember
a
the name.
Shepherd. Yeah, haha.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, he's really good in
I'm the worst with names.
it.
And
Actually, his voice is lovely. He's got a great voice. I loved his
yeah,
the
and he
dialogue.
and he's a great actor. So
Yeah. Um, it's funny actually because Jack Palance definitely overacts in this film. Uh,
whoa, yes,
yeah, but
I
my
was thinking, but
but
I was
Nigel,
thinking
this sort of Terry is so they're wooden that they kind of complement each other quite well. It's
yes, but I think it's funny because Jack Jack Palance needs to wear that helmet
yeah,
without an eye, and you notice it's very clear in the movie that he can see very well,
yeah.
and he needs to act and he needs to move, but he has this helmet at his face, and I was like, oh my god, it must be very bad because you notice that he can't see what he's doing and what's happening, you know. And at the same time, every time he appears, I was like, oh my god, he's a baddie, but this helmet is so bad, you know. And I have to talk about the guy, the character that is I told you that doesn't have a hand.
Hmm.
He has a crossbow, right?
Yeah.
And he used the crossbow as a machine gun. The the scene, do you remember when they are fighting
Uh-huh.
and they show his crossbow is like a machine gun, and
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, it's a medieval movie, and the
Yeah.
guy is like shooting arrows like in a machine gun. This is
Yeah.
so funny. And then all the fight scenes are great because they are so funny.
Mhm. The to be honest, Rafa, I think when I first watched this, I was probably about 8 or 9, and I really wouldn't have they sort of
Of
cared that
course.
the one armed man was
Yes, of
able to
course.
fire his arrows that quickly. So
But it's funny, you know. And the visual effects they they are very bad.
they're not
But
the
it's very 80s. I like that vibe of the 80s, you know. I like that vibe of 80s movies that you understand that they didn't have the technology that we have now, but they never stop and try, you know. So even when you see that it's props or it's smoke or it's I don't know what it is, but it's fun to watch, you know,
it is.
because they try to look like it's magic or
Yeah.
it's the guy is very powerful, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, and you know what, they made the best of what they had, really, didn't they? So
Yes, of course.
yeah. Uh-huh. There's a couple of things if you're they're sort of British. So there's a few actors in some of the smaller roles that actually stand out. So um one is Roy, their sort of Kinnear, who was famous for a lot of
Yes.
sitcoms, and their things like that. Annette, their sort of Crosby. Again, she's really well known over here. She plays one of the nuns, but I think probably my favourite is an actor called Bernard the Breslau, and he plays the giant, character who's got the big
Mm-hmm.
this sort of mallet, and he likes to smash things up and such like. So for British viewers, Bernard Breslau is best known for their Carry On films. I don't know if you know them at all, Rafa, but
No.
okay, well they're or if you're they're sort of British, they're grown up with these films. So if you ask any of their sort of British friends,
Yes.
they will absolutely know who he is. And he turns up later on in one of our
Okay.
other films as well. So just before we move on, I just wanted to say one thing. And I just wanted to quote a line. This is my favorite their sort of quote out of all of the films. And it's said by the son of the Jack, the Palance character. And he goes to confront Hawk. So him and his men go and see Hawk. And he comes out with the great line of, I am no the messenger, but I will give you a message of death.
Yeah.
And then he tries to kill
Yes,
her.
I have this here too because this line is amazing. This line is amazing, and he says that a message of death, and I was like, oh my god, so good.
So what we're going to do, so we're going to move away from their sort of medieval, their sort of Britain, where it's cold and wet and a bit sort of damp and not very nice. And we're actually going to move over to somewhere else, which looks nice and hot and sunny. And you can tell that, Rafa, because quite frankly,
Yes, you can tell.
you can tell
They
because
don't
most of the
wear too much.
cast aren't actually wearing much in the way of clothes, are they? So, what we're going to do is
Well, they
talk about 1982's The Beastmaster.
yes,
Yeah, which is a great film. Very different there to Hawk in
yes,
ways. So yeah, so
and
90. Mhm.
and you can see that one is British and the other one is American. It's because everything in the movie it's very big and loud and it's totally different vibes. Has totally different vibes. It's interesting.
Yeah, and you can basically tell they shot it in their sort of the Californian, their sort of desert base,
Yes.
basically. So, like I say, it's nice and sunny. It looks really warm, and and you really can sort of tell that because most people are fairly much sort of naked. There's not a lot of clothes going on at all. Um, so, it came out in the 1982, written and directed by Don Cascarelli, and the main sort of cast is the Mark Singer, he plays the Dar, the Tanya Roberts who plays the Curry, and Rip Torn,
Yes, I love her.
who plays
She was amazing.
yeah, she was
She was
one
amazing.
of the highlights.
Yes.
Yeah. So the basic plot is armed with supernatural powers, the handsome hero and his animal allies wage war against marauding forces. And again, I'm not going to go over the plot there too much if you haven't seen the Beastmaster, but yeah, this is good fun as well, isn't it?
Yes. But at the beginning, it's so bleak. And
Mhm.
I was like, wait, this is a horror movie? Because the beginning, it's so terrible. Like, the thing about the cow and the children, and the child, and I was like, whoa, wait, what's going on with
Yeah.
this movie? know. It's supposed to be for children.
Yeah.
It's so and so bad, you know, like in the beginning with the witches, and it's very violent, and it's hard to watch, and I was like, it looks like a horror movie,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And you're very much right there. It's quite nasty there to start with. You know,
Yeah.
there's a, there is a nasty scene where where this where this witch uh, uh, basically rips their dad
Mhm.
out of his mother's womb. Yeah, and it's not very nice at all. And then she goes away and she's going to kill the child. Thankfully,
Yeah.
someone there comes along, rescues their dad, and he grows up in their village. Somehow through this magic, Da has a affinity with their sort of animals, as he says quite a few times through the film. They can read his thoughts, and sort of he can read theirs. So Da, later on, the bad guys, they go to his village. They basically kill everyone apart from their sort of him. Um,
Yes, and
and he then sort of teams up with these sort of animals. So he has what's meant to be a panther. Two.
yes, I didn't understand very well what's going on there. It was a tiger, it was a panther, it was like a tiger painted black, and I was like, wait, this is not a panther. And then I was like, wait, this is not a tiger. What's supposed to be, you know?
So
And it's very and and it's and the ferrets. What what's going on with the ferrets?
but
It's the
yeah, I found the ferrets an odd one. Again, if you're
yeah,
they're sort of British,
it gets worse.
I don't really know if you would maybe know this Rafa, but if you're um, they're sort of British, the main thing you think about sort of ferrets is that they would be kept as sort of pets, as it were, by
Yes, I know.
people in the north of their sort of England. And something that
Okay.
used to happen was that um, so small sort of towns and sort of villages in sort of England all have odd sort of hobbies, odd like sort of past their sort of times. And one of the things that sometimes used to happen was that people would put ferrets down their trousers.
Okay.
Okay, I know that sounds really odd, but believe me, that's something that does well or used to happen. Um, and I just really kept thinking about these, ferrets. To be
But
honest, about the
I
film.
spent I really like pets. I really like animals. I like that part of the movie because there is this tiger panther, and it was very. In the end, it wasn't like aggressive. It was very nice and like a little kitten, and I was like, okay. But the ferrets are so cute, and I was thinking if I was him, I would spend the whole movie and the whole quest worry about them because they are so cute and so little. You know, I would
Yeah,
to protect them and pay attention if they are okay. You know, I know that in the movie they supposed to be help they're supposed to help, and they are like little thieves and they
yeah.
help a lot, but they are so cute and little, you know. I was all the time worried about them.
Worried about the ferrets. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
definitely. I did do a bit of their sort of research about the sort of animals. And what they do say is basically they filmed the ferrets. They can't really train them at all, so they would just put them in sort of scenes
Yes.
and then film them and then hope for the best that they
Yes.
did something that looked like what what they wanted there to happen. So uh, 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 which I did think was they're sort of really nice.
Wait.
There is an they're sort of eagle, and that probably works the best out of all of the other animals. So they're the eagle.
Yes, but
Um,
I think it's because it's easier, isn't it,
yeah,
to train eagles and to
yeah.
make eagles.
Uh-huh. So, but I think that the funniest story really is about the panther now, and it's meant to be a panther, and you've touched on it. It looks like
Yes,
a tiger. So
yes,
apparently they wanted a panther, but they were told by the animal handlers that actually panthers are no use for films. Um, so they got
yes.
a
They are dangerous,
tiger.
right?
So they got the tiger, and they dyed it black so it looked like a
And you
panther.
can see that the tiger is very gentle, the
Yeah.
tiger is not angry and not dangerous. You can see that the tiger is very gentle and it's like, oh, I want to hug him, I don't want to.
um,
It's very nice.
and what I did notice as well is you can see in some scenes actually that the dye's actually rubbing off. You
Yes,
can see the tiger stripes underneath
yes,
the blackness,
yes.
so that doesn't quite work. Um, what we
In the
did
scene
mention.
that they are fighting on the in the scene they are fighting on the sheep,
Uh-huh.
and when he rescue the that's Sonia Roberts, right?
Yeah.
You
Mm-hmm.
can see very well that's a tiger, not a panther. It's so funny. It's so
It was a
funny.
tiger. Yeah. Yeah. So that doesn't quite work.
Yes,
What we did touch on. So I think it's fair to say that both Hawk the Slayer and the Beastmaster had relatively small budgets. Um,
yes, but
yeah.
I think they knew how to use the money better in the Beastmaster because they didn't use clothes. So
Exactly.
they didn't they didn't care about to training the animals. So they could spend money with props and you have great props on the movie. So
Yeah, 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 definitely. And some fairly big action, their sort of pieces as well. Like the ending's on a good scale, and there's
yeah.
definitely lots going on. I think it's probably fair to say, Rafa, that they had to save on the costumes because they spent all the money on their hair dye there for the tiger. So
Yeah. And the tan of the guy. I forgot the name of the main character. It's
Dar,
Dar.
Dar.
And he's so tan, and I was like, oh my god, he's almost orange.
And he's proper.
But
He's buff as well. He's proper rip
yeah,
rapper, isn't he? Yeah, he's.
yeah. I I I had some vibes from Conan there in the movie, like Conan
Hmm.
the Barbarian, but at
Yeah.
the same time, I had some vibes from He-Man, the cartoon, the animation.
And to be honest, if you look like that, you don't want to have it, covered up, do you? You should have
Yeah,
it out on show. Um, so that's fair
but
enough.
uh, but there is a problem with animal in this movie. That's when his village is attacked and they kill the dog, and I was like, why they kill the
Yeah,
dog? It's so sad when the dog dies.
that was
And the
sad.
dog appears in like 5 minutes of the movie. You're like, oh, it's his village. He was happy. He used to have a dog, and the dog died. And I was like, why they killed the dog? It's so sad.
To be fair, you've touched on a really good bit because, like we say, it starts out it's fairly grim and quite frightening and quite
Yes,
scary. So, um,
yes,
and then I would definitely say that the middle act's quite, it's a bit more light-hearted. It's, there's a sort of quest element, and it's a lot more fun. And then come the end, it gets a bit sort of bizarre again, doesn't it? So
Yes,
um
it's weird because the movie it's like a little bit childish. The things about him, he is very funny. He is not very heroic, but at the same time, some things in the movie are very heavy. Like the beginning of the movie, it's like a horror movie, and then when his village is attacked, it's so violent,
mhm.
and there are people dead, and I was like, wait, this movie is for children. you know it's not because of the violence, it's because the scenes are very heavy, very grim.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit weird. And
Yeah.
then suddenly the movie got very light again. He's kind of funny, looking the girls bathing in the river, and he tried to get their clothes, and you were like, okay, what I'm watching, what's going on with this film? His
Fun.
village just got attacked. Everybody he loves is dead, and now he's very happy playing with animals and watching women to take a bath. And I was like, okay, it's the 80s. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Uh-huh. Um, the thing that stands out, so they're at the villain's, um, sort of castle by the end of it, and um, but like all of the henchmen are in funny leather gear that you'd find in
Yes.
some weird sexy sort of club.
Yes, I was going to tell you to. I was going to tell you that to not ask me about the female representation in these movies because it's so bad. So in all of three movies, so
I think
I think
I can see how this film might have the appeal to um our gay their listeners. I think there's there is an element there of I can just see I can actually see Mark Singer and there's some of the bad guys in like in New York, their sort of nightclub in the
yes,
1980s, and
yes,
their outfits, to be honest. So
yes, and I like the bads are very very bad. Like they kill children and they hate animals and they don't care about women. I like that. I like that the evil guys are really really evil.
evil guys should be evil, shouldn't they? I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah. And I had some notes that I got vibes from this movie, like I told you, Conan the Barbarian,
Yeah.
He-Man, and Duran Duran,
Okay.
you know,
Oh,
and Mad Max.
yeah.
Some
Uh-huh.
parts of a little bit of
Yeah.
Mad Max,
Yeah. Yeah. There is a bit of that. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I can definitely see that. Um, I tell you what, I do like. I must admit, I I do think Mark, their singer, ac- actually really sort of carries the film with that. He's got a lightness, he's got fun. He looks the part. There's
Yes.
um there's a there's an almost simple, there's sort of goodness about him as well, there, which I really like.
Yes, he's childish, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's very different from the other two heroes because Hulk has this whole history with his father and brother and the fiancée that died, and so he's very sad and grim.
Hmm.
And the other guy from Crow, he was this warrior. he was better than everybody else. He's supposed to marry the princess, and then everybody falls apart, and he needs to revenge and to save the princess. But this guy, he's like, oh, I was just having a good time, enjoying my life, and all of this happened, and now I need to figure out how to deal with that. And then he realized that he can talk to animals and listen and yes, and then he realized that he has what it takes to save his kingdom. So I think it's interesting. It's interesting what happened to him, and I think the movie shows that very well
Yeah.
because he's very childish in the beginning, and then he became his this hero, you know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. And it's
and
good fun. It
there
is,
is
isn't it?
something very good in this movie. It's Joe Amos in this movie, and I love him. And when he appears, and I was like, "Oh my God, Joe Amos is in this movie, and he's this great warrior that helps the hero." I really like this part, you know.
He does, yeah, yeah. He is really good. He absolutely, he nails his part. Yeah. Um, I did. I should have asked this at the start when they um when we started. They're talking about it. So the Beastmaster is not there. The Beastmaster in they're Brazilian, is he? So
No, it's the O Príncipe Guerreiro. It's the warrior prince,
the Warrior Prince.
and yes, and I think it's because of him, man, because he's blonde.
Hmm.
And here in Brazil, He-Man was it was He-Man,
Mm,
and the Masters of the Universe. It
yeah.
was the same, but a lot of people used to know him as the Warrior Prince. So I think they put this title to make children to watch the movie because the guy talked to animals and it's blonde and it's buff, you know, like He-Man.
Yeah.
So,
The
but
Warrior.
I still don't think this is a movie for children, you know, because it's so violent. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an odd one. It's an odd one. It is good fun, I must admit.
Yes,
Um, I just
yes, it is.
it is. I just want to touch on their sort of music, which does work well throughout the film.
Yes.
Um, However, did you recognise anything from the main their sort of theme there, Rafa? Was because it absolutely reminded me of something else. I don't know if you picked up on that. I'm not sure if you know the
No,
show that I'm thinking about. So, um,
no.
right, okay. So, if anyone is familiar with the original their TV series of Battlestar, the Galactica, then the music is
Mhm.
amazingly similar. I definitely,
Okay.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah. The
yes, it makes sense.
uh-huh.
Yes.
The, oh, there is. He definitely rips that one off, certainly. Um, and before we move on, I have to say, when I watched Beastmaster, I enjoyed it so much that I watched the other two films as well. Um,
Okay.
they were just as fun in their own way. Although perhaps the quality did take a little bit of a dive, but I did watch them. So I would recommend the Beastmaster at all. What we are going to do is they sort of move away, and we're absolutely going to move away in terms of quality and definitely their budget for our third film.
Yes.
This one had a lot more money spent on it. And it's my favorite of the three, and that is Krull from 1983. Um, and like I say, this was a big budget film, a really well made
Yes.
film. So
And
direct,
it has a great cinematography. The cinematography of this movie is amazing. I
it looks
was very
fantastic.
like, oh, yes.
It really does. It looks fantastic, and you can really tell. I think a lot of it was shot in the sort of Italy. So
Yes.
the outside scenes in the mountains, and they'll look lovely. However, you can also tell it was made in one of the big their sort of British film studios. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. So it was either Pinewood or one of those studios there. And you can really see that there apparently it used so many of the big their sort of stages and things like that, and you can really see it in there, the size of the sets, and there for the sequence in the swamp, Rafa. So the swamp
There is a sequence.
there, yeah. So
Oh,
where
okay.
in the where they're
Well,
going through the swampland, and all that. That's all done. That's all on a big this sort of stage. It looks fantastic. It really does. So you can see it was money well spent in that regard. And
yes, and the castle of oh, the warlock, the castle where the princess is. It's amazing. I like the scenery. I like the
yeah,
red with the the gold, and I really like that. And the scene with the web, you know,
yeah,
when the guy goes to talk to the witch,
yeah.
and he needs to go through this web. It's amazing, that scene too.
The big scenes are really well sort of done. I'm just looking at,
Yes,
actually, apparently had a budget of their 47 million their dollars, so you can absolutely see where the money's gone up on their
yes,
screen. Made in yeah, Pinewood. So actually made in the same stages where they film they're the Bond films. So you can absolutely see that. Yeah, so like I say, so big budget film. They're they're directed by Peter the Yates, who's probably
yes.
most famous for their Bullet, they're the the McQueen film. Um, so absolute their sort of pedigree there, and like you say, amongst the the crew, uh, you know, folk who've worked on all sorts of great sort of films. Um, just to quickly go over the plot. So a prince and his fellowship of companions set out to rescue his bride from a fortress of alien invaders who have arrived on their planet. Um, and it has a little bit of sci-fi elements as well, sort of to it.
Yes, 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 it is. But I like that the beginning. It's very sci-fi. The beginning
Mm-hmm.
with the space, and shows you the planet and spaceships, and suddenly it's this very medieval fantasy. It's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
and I like when they are fighting on the saloon of the castle, because the guy the I told you I'm the worst with the actors, but the main guy, the main character, he looks like Errol Flynn, and he fights
Yeah.
like Errol Flynn.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Yep. So that's Ken, their Marshall. He plays their Colwyn, and absolutely, you're absolutely right there,
Yes.
Rafa. That's the vibes that I got off it. I did very much think
Yeah.
Errol, their Flynn. He is that. He absolutely is the swash, their buckling hero. I almost expect them to swing on a
Yes, me too.
yeah, through the sets. Um, there, his bride is played by
And this
Lizette.
movie has And this movie has this speech too. His father, when his father is dying, he do the big speech for him to revenge his death and to save the princess. And I
Yeah.
was like, "You are dying," you know?
Yeah. So the princess. So she's played by Lizette, the Anthony, who was certainly well known in the 80s to
Yes.
like their sort of British audiences as well. She was, she was very famous over here. Um, and you know what? This is just a great fun film, isn't it? It's just
Yes.
it is really.
And I remember when I was young when I watched this movie as a child. I remember that I find her so beautiful, like a doll, like because of the red hair and
Uh-huh.
the blue eyes.
Yeah.
And she still is. She's still very beautiful, and you still watch the movie and think she looks like a little doll, with the big big red hair and the big blue eyes. And I like how she fits very well as this princess, but at the same time she's powerful. She doesn't fear anything. She
Mhm.
tries to save herself. She knows that somebody will try to save her, but she doesn't like she's very powerful. I like that.
Yeah, definitely. She's not meek and mild and waiting on him. I mean,
Yeah.
she is kind of waiting on him, turning up to rescue her, but she's not, she's not just sitting there sort of helpless, is she? She is trying to do her best.
Yes, yes.
Um, Again, sort of
And
similar to them all of the other two, where 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 the hero kind of teams up with his their sort of gang, as it were, and they go off to they go off on their sort of quest. Um and and actually, I think from my point point of view, and I look at it now, and then when I look at the cast, that's really the thing that kind of stands out for me there the most,
yes,
is the quality of the actors.
because I noticed like in the Hulk, you have all these guys too with him. He had this band with him, but
Mhm.
I don't remember all of them, but Crow, I remember all of them,
Yeah,
you know,
and there's
like
some.
the Cyclops
Yeah,
and the funny guy, and I remember all of them.
yeah, and there's some pretty big names in that cast. There's some fairly famous actors in there as well. Um, so what stands out for me is, um,
You froze for me.
oh yeah, just a little bit, but I think
You froze here.
all right. Oh, well, you've frozen here, Rafa. So there, but we can still hear each other. Yeah. Oh, oh, this is gone.
Oi,
Ah,
hi.
hey, hi.
You frozen for a while.
Yeah, so did you. Yeah. Haha. Uh,
Okay.
so there's lots of actors who really stand out in it. There for me, I think the main one who I really like is Freddie there Jones, um, uh, who plays the sort of Obi-Wan sort of character, doesn't he? He's the
Yeah.
the wise older sort of person, and I really like the him in the film. Um, um, so, is there anyone who stands out for you? Is there anyone in there who really
I
stands out?
I always I always remember the Cyclops because his story is so sad.
Mhm,
So the most thing that I remember about the movie to watch when I was a kid, it was because of the Cyclops, because he was a little bit scary for a
mhm.
child, but at the same time you learn that he is very gentle and nice, and he will going to die, and you are like, oh, I like him, why he needs to die. but yes, but at the same time, I was thinking like this movie, you feel for the characters because when the wizard died, it's very sad
Hmm.
because he's nice and he's trying to help and he has this that little kid that he helps and take care and I was thinking about that because in the other movies the a lot of characters die but you are like wait who died what happened and
Hmm.
you don't feel for them, you know. In
Yeah.
this movie you feel for the characters.
Hmm. Yeah.
They know how to tell the story better, I think.
Yeah. 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 I think you do. I think you actually they relate to the characters better. Um, Funnily enough, you should touch on the character of the Cyclops, because
Yes.
that is also played by Bernard the Breslau, who was in Hawk.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the big giant in their Hawk is the Cyclops
Mm.
in their Crawl.
In Crow.
Yeah.
Okay, this is interesting
Obviously, you
because
can't
he's
really tell because he's only got one eye and
yes,
he's got
of
a mask on.
course,
But that is
and there
him
is a
on.
wig too.
Hmm?
There is a wig too, I think.
Yeah, haha, yeah. Um, However, there's a few actors in some of the more smaller roles who actually went on to a lot bigger things. So we do have Robbie, the sort of Coltrane, Rafa, probably they you might know him best as they're Hagrid and they're the Harry Potter
Yes,
films. Yeah. Uh,
yes,
he is amazingly famous.
yes. That's that. Yes, and I think it's funny because I was watching the movie and then you start to recognize some actors that are very famous now, and I
Mhm.
was like, oh look, Liam Neeson. Oh look,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Liam Neeson. Yeah. A very young looking there. Liam Neeson is in this film.
Yes,
Again for British viewers. So one thing. So someone who we know well and we're very fond of. So the younger. So not the boy, but the younger member of the gang, as it were. Um, he's played by an actor called Todd their Carty. And if you know British their sort of TV, he's really well known for being in Grange Hill and the soap opera EastEnders. So he's really well
okay.
known. Yeah, uh-huh. Um, but I think this is really his only film sort of role. You know, you don't really see him in many other films, but he's certainly well known in on sort of TV. Um, I think again we have really touched on the scale of the film and how it does look really good. The action's really really sort of brilliant. The actors are all of a standard where you they sort of believe
Yes,
in them. I do just want to round up on the music again there, Rafa. So
yes, it's very good.
it is very good. Now I've mentioned this a couple of times in some of my other their sort of episodes. So the music is composed by James Horner. So he's
Okay.
so a really well known their sort of composer. He did the
Yes,
likes of their Titanic. Um, that's one of his their scores. He does, however, he does like to reuse his music quite a lot there, Rafa. So um, if you are
okay.
familiar with say Star Trek 2 or Aliens, then the
Uh,
score to those
okay.
two
Yes.
films is actually really quite similar to Krull.
Yes, it's yes. Maybe because he think, oh, it's something spacey, so I do the same kind of
Quite possibly, yeah.
soundtrack.
Yeah, he does. He does like to. He obviously does change some bits, but it's really quite their similar. So the next time you're watching their sort of aliens, you should have a little crawl
Yes,
thought in your head, because they are quite similar. So just bear that one
but
in mind. Um,
I was reading about Crow, and okay, now it's a movie that you can, if you watch again, if you watch some fantasy movies now, they are very fast. Everything happens very fast, and this movie has another pace. Things happen in a little bit slowly, and there are a lot of dialogues that you think, oh, you don't need to do that dialogue. It's not important for the movie,
uh,
for the plot, but that's
yeah.
okay. It was how movies used to be done. But when you see that this movie wasn't very well on box office, I think it's sad because it was a great movie.
Hmm.
And I was reading that someone wants to remake this movie, and I think it would be a great remake because it's a very, very interesting story, you know?
Oh well, I look forward to that if and when it actually happens. So who
Yes.
knows? Who knows? Hollywood likes to remake things all of the time, don't they? So
Yes, because it's funny because I remember when I watched it, and well, when you're a child you have your little world and you think only the people you know the things that you like. And then I went to college, and then I grew up, and I noticed that a lot of people like Crow, and it's like a cult movie here in Brazil. A lot of people like here.
hmm.
I think it's because they used to show on TV all the time, so we grew up watching this movie. And um and it's funny because it wasn't like very famous in the 80s, but today it's like a cult movie. Everybody knows about this movie. Everybody remember the castle that the princess stay in. Everybody remembers about the Cyclops. Everybody remembers about the swamp. It's very interesting.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that it's loved over where you are, Rafa, because it's certainly loved in my house. Um, and now, now we did touch on the last time there, Rafa, where we can hear you some there more. So just to remind us, where are you available if there's
Oh,
some people
I
would like to hear more?
I have my podcast. It's Miss Horror Radio. I talk about horror movies and all kinds of horror things, but it's in Portuguese. And I have an Instagram. It's Miss Horror Theater, and I talk about where I talk about horror movies too. And I'm on Twitter, and I'm Rafa Ximenes,
Mhm.
very Brazilian name, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please do check out more of their Rafa's work. And as always, Rafa, thank you very
Yeah,
much, and thank everybody.
yeah. Thank you for the invitation.
You're very welcome, Rafa, every time. And thanks everybody at home for listening. Thank you.